The most valuable real estate on earth right now has no windows. No sign out front, no lobby. Just a gray concrete box behind a fence humming in the middle of nowhere. Drive past it and you'd think it was a warehouse. But inside that box runs a piece of the artificial intelligence that is rewriting the world economy. And here is the part nobody tells you. The person who owns that building is not a tech genius. They didn't train a model. They didn't write a line of code. They own the walls, they own the power, and they rent both to the smartest companies on the planet. You think a data center is a technology business. It is not. It is a power company wearing a hoodie. And by the end of this, you'll understand the real game better than most of the people playing it. So let's do the thing everyone is quietly trying to do right now. Let's open one of your own. Start with what the dream actually looks like, because it is bigger than you think. In April of 2026, a company called Applied Digital signed a single lease. One tenant, one building, 300 megawatts of power. The value of that lease, $7.5 billion. Not up front, over 15 years. But it is signed, locked, and the tenant is a hyperscaler with investment grade credit. Read that again. One customer agreed to pay billions for 15 years to rent a building. That is the business you are trying to get into. You are not selling computers. You are becoming a landlord. And your tenant is the richest, most desperate industry in modern history. Right now, the 5 biggest tech companies plan to spend over $600 billion in a single year on this stuff. By 2030, the world is expected to pour close to $7 trillion into these boxes. All of that money needs somewhere to land. It needs buildings. It needs power. That is where you come in. So here is the real question for the next few minutes. What do you actually need to own one of these buildings? And who is quietly getting rich off it? Let's build one from the ground up. The first thing you need is land. And here's the first surprise, the land is the cheap part. Raw industrial dirt in the right regions runs around $5 to $6 a square foot. Compared to everything else, that is pocket change. But you cannot just buy any field. A data center is not about the acres. It's about what sits next to the acres. You need to be near a high voltage power line. You need to be near fiber optic cable. You need cheap electricity, cool weather if you can get it, and a government that will let you build. Miss any one of those, and your cheap land is worthless. That's why the good parcels, the big ones, over 50 acres next to power, jumped 23% in price in a single year. Everyone figured out the same thing at once. The dirt was never the point. The dirt is just a place to stand next to the real prize. And the real prize is power. This is the whole game, so slow down here. To run a data center, you need to plug it into the electric grid. That connection is called an interconnection, and you have to wait in line for it. How long is the line? In most of the country, 5 to 6 years. In Northern Virginia, the biggest data center hub on Earth, the wait is around 7 years. In the region called PJM, some projects wait more than 8 years just to turn on. Let that sink in. You can have the land, the money, and the plans ready today. And the grid tells you, come back in 7 years. Now here is the number that breaks people's brains. In Texas, on one grid alone, there were over 140 gigawatts of data centers asking to connect. For comparison, that entire grid's highest demand ever, every home, every factory, every air conditioner in a heat wave, was about 86 gigawatts. So the projects lining up wanted almost twice the power the whole grid had ever used. Power stopped being a bill you pay. Power became the thing everyone is fighting over. It is the new oil, and whoever controls it wins. Hold on to that, because it changes everything about how you build. Now you've secured your land and you're fighting for your power. Time to build the box. And this is where the money gets serious. Building a standard data center now costs about $11 million per megawatt. Per megawatt. And a real facility is measured in tens or hundreds of them. If you're building for AI, the heavy stuff, the chips that run hot, it costs even more. 15, 20, sometimes over $30 million for a single megawatt of the newest AI-ready space. So where does all that money actually go? Here's the secret hiding in the budget. Nearly half of it, 40 to 45%, is not computers at all. It's electrical equipment, switchgear, backup generators, giant batteries, power distribution. You are not building a building, you are building a power plant that happens to have a roof. Another 15 to 25% goes to cooling. Because those AI chips run so hot that fans can't save them anymore. The newest centers pump liquid coolant directly across the processors, like a radiator in a car. Put it together, and the picture flips completely. The computer building is mostly wires, batteries, and cooling pipes. The tech was never the expensive part, the power was. Which brings us to the single most valuable thing you can own in this business. Not the land, not the building, the power contract. Remember that 7-year line to connect to the grid? The developers who already have a signed power agreement own something almost magical. They own the right to electricity, while everyone behind them waits years to get any. That piece of paper can be worth more than the concrete. And the biggest players found a way to skip the line entirely. Instead of waiting for the grid, they build their own power right on site. It's called behind the meter, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Your own gas plant, your own solar farm, your own connection to a power source, feeding the building directly. Across the country, more than 40 gigawatts of this private power is already being planned. The message is clear. If the grid won't power you fast enough, you become the grid. The winners in this business are not the ones with the best servers. They're the ones who locked up electricity before anyone else knew it was scarce. Okay, you've got the land, the power, and the building. Now, how do you actually make money? You rent it out, and you can rent it in slices. The small slice is a rack, a single tall cabinet of equipment. A standard rack rents for somewhere between $900 and $2,500 a month. A high-powered rack packed with hungry AI hardware can go for $6,000 a month or more. The big slice is wholesale. You rent power by the kilowatt to one giant tenant. That runs around $200 per kilowatt every month. Here's how you sell it, and this is the beautiful part. You don't just charge rent, you charge rent plus the electricity on top. The tenant pays a fixed price for the space and the cooling. Then, whatever power they burn, they pay for separately, straight through, no risk to you. So the wild swings in energy prices, not your problem. That's the tenant's bill. Now let's add it up on a modest building. Take a small 5 megawatt center, tiny by today's standards. Filled up and running, that one building can bring in $11 to $14 million a year. From one box, one tenant, one long contract. And that reveals the secret this entire industry is built on. You are not really in the technology business at all. You are a landlord, a very special kind of landlord. Look at how the leases actually work. Your tenants sign for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years at a time. They're not startups. They're the most creditworthy companies on earth. The leases are triple net, meaning the tenant covers the taxes, the insurance, the upkeep. And the rent goes up automatically, 2 to 3% every single year. A guaranteed tenant, a 20-year lease, rent that only rises. Someone else pays the bills. That is the single best rental agreement ever invented. This is why the smart money stopped calling these tech stocks. They're real estate. Digital real estate. That's why the giants of this industry are structured as property companies, REITs, not software firms. And investors price them like trophies. The best data centers now trade at cap rates as low as 4.5% to 6%. In plain English, that means buyers accept a tiny yearly return because they're paying a premium for something rock solid. Just 3 years ago, that number was 7 or 8%. The price of owning this real estate has been bid up hard, fast, as the whole world realized what it was. Now step back and see the machine you've just built, because this is the chain reaction that runs everything. Artificial intelligence needs computers. Computers need enormous amounts of power. The power grid can't be built fast enough to keep up. So power becomes the choke point of the entire AI economy. And whoever owns the land, the buildings, and the electricity to run them controls the choke point. The engineers get the headlines. The model gets the hype. But the quiet person who signed the power contract and poured the concrete, they collect the rent for 20 years from the richest tenant in the world. So here is the real game, now that you can see it. The AI gold rush is not being sold in chips or clever code. It's being sold in megawatts, in square feet. The people getting rich aren't all inventing the future. Some of them just figured out where the future has to plug in, and they bought it first. You came in thinking a data center was a building full of computers. Now you know the truth. It's a power company. It's a landlord. It's the most valuable empty box in the world. And the next time you drive past that windowless gray warehouse in the middle of nowhere, humming behind its fence, you won't see a warehouse. You'll see the real estate the entire future is being built on. And you'll understand exactly how someone gets rich owning it.